All right. Uh, so this is gonna go up on my YouTube. Um, one of my vlogs. It's been at least a week or so. Um, some good things happening. Some not so good things, but working out. I'm starting to look after my health and stuff like that. So that's a positive. Some other stuff I care not to get into right now, but maybe we'll discuss that at a later time. The reason, well, first of all, my name's New Age of Truth. You hit me up at newageoftruth.com. Follow my blog, New Age of Truth, on WordPress, Twitter. I say Chitter. Twitter, New Age of Truth. Oh yeah, and New Age of Truth at gmail.com. Should go without saying. Uh, so, the reason I'm posting this video right now is because this is actually, I don't want to say a response, but I just kind of had some mixed feelings about a video that I was watching. And part of it was about Donald Trump, and he was kind of basically calling out, um, you know, saying to the African American community, your schools are impoverished. Uh, you know, uh, Basically, you're at the bottom of the barrel, and you need to, what else you have to lose, type of thing. Why not try me? And a lot of people, this caused a lot of controversy, and he's condescending, he's talking down to me, he's a racist, he's a bigot, and all this other stuff. I'm not here to discuss Trump as far as him and his racial, um, however you would say, his indifference or difference to black people or Muslims or Latinos or whatever. But what he was specifically talking about, the economics around, African Americans, he was pretty much, he hit the nail on the head. A lot of the schools are deeply impoverished, can't afford to buy books. The schools are rotting away, literally rotting away. I think there was a school in Detroit I was reading an article on, where there was mushrooms growing out of the ground, in one of the floors, where there was mold everywhere. And that's it for a lot of schools. Um, you know that you know cater. Well, I won't say cater, but hold a lot of African Americans students. When you talk about grade school and things of that nature. When when you're in those school districts that have basically been neglected because of the distribution of the tax dollars, um, you know, go to are redistributed, and they're not going to those schools. They're going to keep the better school districts schools going. Um, but that's just a small piece of the puzzle. But the video I was actually reacting to was not one of Trump being condescending, or the one that I was kind of talking about, where they're talking. He was actually right. He in those terms that the schools are bad. You're in economic crisis. He didn't say those words, but I'll paraphrase. He was in economic. We're in economic crisis, and you have been pretty much left out to dry, um, by society. You know, um, so they were saying, they were making their points about how we are, and these were black people. So I just want to probably throw that out. These were black people talking about these black issues. So it's also, a lot of people get up all up in when white people start talking about black people and stuff like that. It's like you don't have the right, you don't have the authority, and these are black people talking about these economic issues. But the problem I have is when it was about a 40, no, it's actually close to an hour. It was an hour video, and it just kept going on this, I don't want to say loop, but they kind of just kept harping on the point that, black people don't have anything. And the little bit of solutions that they did give were heavily critiqued and basically said, well, this doesn't really, they're doing this and, do this, but it really doesn't mean anything. Or, so, I have a real issue when you're quick to throw out the problems, but the solutions are where you fall short. When you don't put the solutions out there, and however insignificant you think they are, everything has to be we're at the point now where we have to really zero in on solutions. We know what the problems are. If you live in an urban city, or you live in the projects or the ghetto, or you've been there or visited, or you have cousins there, or family or friends, or whatever the issue, you know what the problems are. What are the solutions? Where is, and that's where that's the stage where we should be at. We should, honestly, it's not like we should stop talking about the problems, but I'm at the point now where if we're not talking about solutions and real turnaround and real long term, I'm not talking about short term, I'm talking about long term strategy, it's a waste of my time. I can look up statistics and all this other stuff about, uh, for instance, I looked up a statistic the other day. African Americans in New York are, I think, at 1% owning businesses. 1%. And I think Latinos they're significantly higher. And then Asian Americans, I think, are a little higher than that. And then white people are at the top. Um, so what's the turnaround for that? What is the answer for that? Well, I would say, number one, we have to start educating our kids on how important business is. And it's not just to tell them, when you're telling them you can be anything you want to be, you can give them that speech, but tell them, I want you to own something. I want you to own your own business. This is not a request. This is a requirement right now. You have to go out there and look at something that you want to do, make it a passion, but you also have to be able to make it money off of it. And something that you can um, learn while you're going to school, and learn because we are at the point now, if we don't turn things around, they've already projected that we're, the generation I'm in is doing worse than the generation before me and the generation before that. And they're going to be projecting that the generation after me, my kids, will do worse than that. So we're not even in the same discussion as far as talking about, well, what can, this is the problem, and this is happening, and the economics and downturn, and we have another crisis on the, okay, what are we talking about solutions? When are we going to get to that point? So I said, well, it would be really hypocritical for me to not talk about solutions. So I already kind of talked about one, um, and a lot of the stuff is just me doing research online. I didn't, um, I didn't, well, you can go in the library and find stuff like that, but it wasn't like I had to go to school for this stuff. It's like I looked up stuff online, and there's a lot of tools and kits and books and even programs that can teach your children how to start, run, and make a good profit uh, profit making business. And this is something that I think should be essential right now, especially to the African American community, especially to us. Because a lot of times, we tell these woe stories. And what I mean by that is we get upset at the fact that we have a talent and somebody makes money off of that talent, but it's not us. Case in point, hip hop. We love to moan and cry about the fact that, oh, it's our music. We should be the ones in charge of it. That ship has sailed. That ship has gone. That was gone in the 80s and damn sure in the 90s when the record label execs who didn't come from your neighborhood, didn't know your sound, didn't know who you were, didn't know what your life was like, but they found a way that they can make money and you signed your contracts. That ship sailed then. Now we're in a place where we can try to get it back with these independents, these independent labels where we can, make money independently, but those are still very far and few between. Not everybody is like Chance the Rapper or um what's the other guy Macklemore and all, where they get commercial success off of these independents. A lot of these independents are going to be struggling. Now that's, and some people, that's fine. They'll get their little money here and there, and their little show money and selling CDs and stuff like that, and that's fine if you got the legwork. But a lot of people don't have to hustle. That's it. But I'm getting back to solutions here. Teach your kids the importance of starting their own business. I would even make it a project. You know, um, I teach my girls chess. I think that's important. Strategy, because I want them to start critically thinking. So there's a point behind that. Um, and there's a couple of, I had a book, but anyway, you can find ways to teach your children how to start up a business. Okay, licensing, marketing, social media. What is the product? How much is it going to cost? How much should you sell it for? What is your demographic? All that type of stuff. You can sit down with them and start kind of getting that idea in their head, get the concept. And the idea is not to make them have a successful multi-million-dollar corporation. That is not the idea behind when I say have them start a business. I'm saying have them the mindset and the concept of it. Because statistics show that a lot of African Americans, when we're coming into our teens, we're already about 7 years behind, you know, your your average income white family who has both parents and make good wages. We're already behind. And if you're a single mother, I was raised by a single mother, you're way behind. As far as the knowledge that and what they know, and just the experience. Um, but let me get back to these solutions real quick. Okay, so teach your kids business. Teach them economics. And what I mean by, how does money work? How does how does the money that you make bring in? How does it? What bills does it go to? And what are some things that you know? What could they take their money and invest in? Teach them about real estate. Teach them about property ownership. Teach them about CDs and teach them about investing. How does the stock market work? I had to actually go into, I read a couple of books. I went online. I went to a couple of seminars to learn how investing works, because that was something I was interested in. A lot of people, feel like it's a scary thing to invest their money, and it can be, because you will have the opportunity to lose money, and you'll have the opportunity to make money, and the market goes up or down either which way. But at the same token, it's really foolish to really think that if your only source of income is for you to work your 9 to 5, and if you work your overtime hours and blah blah blah, then that is going to sustain you and create generational wealth. Then you're continuing continuing the cycle of poverty. And that's just reality. Um, so I would, teach your kids about economics, teach them about investing, even small investments. Especially small investments. I don't teach them a get rich quick scheme. Teach them the basics, the mechanics of how it works. Um, Now here's some other solutions I'm just gonna start throwing out there. All right. So we go to, a lot of people in the black community are Christians or Muslim or Jewish or whatever the case may be. But I'm going to specifically talk about Christians because I don't know how the other faiths work. When your pastor is collecting your tithes or what have you, um, I would specifically ask them, what are they doing in the community? Where is the money going? Now, if these are not for the smaller churches. If you have a small church and they're basically just keeping the lights on, this you don't really have to apply this to them. But they can do stuff too. They can hold classes and all this other stuff. Anyway, but I'm talking about these mega churches out here. The whole couple thousand members and they make millions of dollars a year. Where's the money going? Why isn't the money being redistributed into the black community? And if it is, good. But if it's not, why? Where's the money going? Why you have a $100,000 vehicle, $1 million home? You get a private jet flown around for your own private use, but your members are in an impoverished neighborhood and have been for the last 20, 30 years. Grandma's still giving up her last bit of dollars every week. And now they got the daughter and the daughter and the sons going there and they're giving up their money. Where's the money going? So we really have to, and I would hate, and I don't want to say that, all preachers are evil or anything like that, because they're not. But we really started to have to hold the people accountable, even in our own communities. So I would say if they're not donating to like a community center or something that helps the neighborhood along, like put together a volunteer group or fund some project to where we can educate our kids on certain business aspects when they're young. Don't wait till they're 24 in college to say, well, now I want to take business classes. That shit should have been done at age 4, 5, 6, 7, and up. Okay? Because that's where your business leaders and the ones who have known this stuff learn from at that age. They don't learn until they, go out of high school and start going into college. No, they've been learning it since like preschool and middle school and junior high. They've been learning that and groomed for that since they were young. So we need to get to the youth when they're young. Okay? And I can't stress that enough. So I would say, that's some of the stuff that they can do. Now, another way that we can, get money flowing back into the community, um, you know, learn about minority loans. Learn what loans are out there. And again, this is easy work. You can go online to find out. Learn about the SBA loans. Learn about SCORE. Learn about, I don't have the page in front of me right now, but there are different loans for minorities based on where you live at, that where you can get, access to loans and grants and things of that nature based on the nature of your business or what you're trying to do. So I think that's very important. That's one avenue that you can take because there is money out there that a lot of people haven't tapped into and they don't know it's there. Um, but one thing I would say is, and the next couple of things I'm probably going to say is probably going to get me a lot of critics, but whatever. There are a lot of businesses, banks, um, and just overall um, businesses as a whole in this country. that have pretty much got their start, their foundation off of selling slaves. And that's just the truth. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. There are companies out there that have documented the selling of slaves, and they've made money off of it. I would say those companies, and in addition to the apology, because they, some of them apologize for it, and yada yada yada. They need to be boycotted. They need to be boycotted. And what I mean by that is, if they're selling a product, you don't buy their product. That's simple. Now, we have $1 trillion coming through the black community that we pretty much just hand right back over and make other people rich. If for some, if for some, if we could turn that switch off, that would just say, let me hand my money over to Walmart or Target or McDonald's or Chase or wherever, and just say, well, no, I'm not going to hand it over, but thank you for the money. We would put this whole economy into a chokehold. And they would, and then you have these CEOs saying, what's going on here? We projected such and such, profit this quarter. What's going on? Oh, well, it's, our African American, sector, they're not spending. What? Why aren't they spending? So, and that would cause them to, stop and say, okay, what can we do to get them spending the money again? Because we need this thing to keep going. We need this, this thing called capitalism to keep the wheels turning. We need, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, my great 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 grandchildren need this money. Why aren't they spending their money? And so when they come to us, because that eventually, if you put them in a chokehold for long, and I'm not saying in a physical chokehold, I'm talking about a financial chokehold. When you withhold of your spending cash and your expenditures, I mean, buy what you need, but if you can, go to a black, black business and buy it that way, or buy it from a black bank. Um, But the bottom line is, when they come to you and say, well, why aren't you spending our money? Why aren't you spending the money that you guys get? Oh, well, there's a couple of issues that need to be addressed before we start, spending our money again with you. Okay, so what can we do? Hold on 1 second. All right, we're talking about 23 minutes. Wow. Okay. So yeah, I had to take a slight pause. I'm sorry about that. My kids are in the background, and I had to address them. Uh, so yeah, what were we talking about? Okay, businesses. Oh yeah, put them in that account. Okay, so stop spending the money. You can do that by not going to the clubs and not going to the movies and not going to spending some money shopping and you know, and I'm not saying stop altogether. I'm just saying, you know, um, keep your spending to a minimum if you're going to go in these stores, unless you can find like, a store that's actually interested in your community. It doesn't have to be black owned. I'm just saying interested in your community. Let's keep it that way. And what I mean by that, they participate in your community. They're a part of it. They help out in the community some type of way, whether it's giveaways or foundations or stuff like that. Something that actually helps the community as a whole. So I think that's important. Um, so that's what I want to kind of say is that stop spending in those stores that don't. And then when they ask you why or not, then you tell them these are the issues that need to be addressed by you, because they're already being addressed by us. You need to kind of open your mouth and say, well, these are the issues that are important to us because they're important to our customers. However you want to word it, and you go from there. Now that could be a range of issues. A lot, not, it doesn't have to be pertaining to just black people. But I think that if we're going to be the ones spearheading this thing, and I think that if we need to get our own economic power back, then we need to be addressing our issues and then issues as a whole. Case in point, we have to address poverty in the black community. Segregation is still very, very, very much alive. And you can go and where the neighborhoods you are. Like if you're in a bad neighborhood in the Bronx or Brooklyn, or and I don't want to say bad by meaning black, because that's self hatred right there. But if when you're in a black neighborhood and where the poverty is rampant, and you see the liquor stores in every corner, and then when you go uptown, where where that ended pretty much. You know, and it's not a lot of times is that it's hard to take pride in a neighborhood where you don't own it, and it's not yours, and you can't afford to live anywhere else. So I think we need to start taking the power back that we have. Now I know, and I understand people say, well, I can't stop spending. There are stuff that I need, and blah blah blah, and I gotta stay flashy and fly and all this other shit. So here's what I would propose to do is that because I don't think we can curb our spending habits overnight, because that's gonna take maybe 10, 20 years before we can stop saying, well, I bought it because it was hot, man, you buy a pair of $150 sneakers that depreciate the second you put them in the shoebox, and as soon as you put them on your feet, they're pretty much not even worth anything. As well as the cars and stuff like that. So what I would say is there needs to be some type of mechanism in place, and however the stores want to work this out, whether there's stores in the black community or near the black community or whatever, that for every dollar that we spend in those stores, um, and the same principle could be applied to like when we go to the strip club or the club or stuff like that. Just $1, it goes right back into the community. However, that's worked out. Whether it goes into a treasury or a fund or an organization or what have you, the money that we spend in the clubs, because we are definitely in the clubs, or we go to the strip clubs, we were definitely in there, and the money that we go into see Tyler Perry movies, and the money we go to see Kevin Hart, and the money we go to see, um, you know, all these different black plays and things of that nature. Um, those money needs to go right back into the community. Um, it needs to go back into our schools. It needs to go back into um, different organizations. After school programs that have been cut, it needs to go back into that. So I think that would definitely be a help. Um, so I would say, and it may not be a dollar. Maybe a dollar's too high. Um, but maybe 45 cents or 50 cents higher. A lot of that's not killing people. But when you spend your money on a drink, the 50 cents upcharge, that money's not even seen by the club. It goes right into that fund right there, and they collect that fund maybe once a week or once a month, and then the money just keeps piling and piling and piling in until, okay, now we can look at this neighborhood. This playground that they used to have, the swings aren't working. This is actually pretty hazardous over here. This has been neglected. There's glass all over the concrete. Okay, let's get some cleaning crews in here. Let's get some construction. Let's get this place cleaned up. Bam. All right, so let's start on the next neighborhood, and let's start on this neighborhood, and let's start on this one. And actually, let's grow a garden. A garden in here somewhere. You have some nice flowers, maybe some gardening classes, so they can start growing vegetables, and especially with the inner cities where there are not a lot of fresh produce readily available. They have to go to the bodega or the mom and pop shop, that has grocery stores, and they don't have, you know, whole sections of vegetables and fruits. Learn how to tell them how they can grow it. Show them how they can grow it for themselves. Um, okay, so black pastors, celebrities as well. Donate. We can get them to donate and put again that goes into the foundation or treasury or what have you. Businesses redirect the money going from them. Have them or have them donate into the treasury. Um, and there was another. Oh, here we go. Here's going to be another hot one. For all the parents, I would say put it like this: for the parents and the siblings and the significant other and any of their children. So we're talking about parents, we're talking about brothers and sisters, we're talking about uh, girlfriends. Well, not girlfriends, but if they have a child together, girlfriends, or if they're wife or husband, whatever. Men or women who are killed uh, by police brutality, and there is evidence of that. And it doesn't have to be a conviction. Okay, it doesn't have to be a conviction because that's a whole nother avenue right there. But if we have video evidence of like Philando Castile and uh, these other incidents, just is not coming to the top of my head, where you know the cop just went up and shot unarmed black male or unarmed black female. In those instances, there should be a bill introduced that those families, when also with them filing lawsuit and all that other stuff, if they get money, fine. But they should become tax exempt. And the reason I believe they should become tax exempt is because if it's the tax dollars, whatever portion of the tax dollars that goes into funding firefighters and police officers and roads and bridges and stuff like that. If the tax dollars goes into that and they're not getting the benefit of it, why are they paying it? Why are they paying it? If their son doesn't come home tonight or any other night because they were gunned down and there's video proof or proof of eyewitness testimony that is um, verifiable, they should be able to file exempt status on paying taxes because it's the tax monies that fund the police force. And I mean, that's just how I feel about it. And I'm not saying this, bad on cops and stuff like that. It's like, oh, here's another black man coming down on cops because I think cops do an excellent job. Um, and I think that, and they'll probably come back with a countersuit like, well, what about, the cops that get shot down by black males? What are we going to do to them? Make up a law? I don't know. But I'm just talking about the ones who are gunned down by police. And again, this doesn't have to be proven in a court of law. That we're not looking for a conviction because the conviction rate on police officers is almost non-existent. I'm talking about when there's video or verifiable proof that that they were unarmed and they were gunned down. Because to me, if they're unarmed and they're gunned down, there's nothing else you can say. If they're reaching for something and you thought it was a gun, that may have a little bit of leeway. I understand you have to make a split-second decision. You thought he had a gun, yada, yada. But when they had their hands up, like the guy who had his hands up, and he's telling them, "Please don't shoot," and he was a therapist, and he was talking to some kid with Down syndrome, and he still was shot. Tax exemption status. Give him tax exemption status. He was shot for no reason. So some other solutions. Um, put our money together, and I would say probably because I've been talking about 40 minutes now. Probably my other solution would be is, well, you know, definitely teach the youth about how money works. I kind of talked on that, and I'm not gonna keep going back on that. Um, and I think the overall we have to change the mindset of our African American culture. Um, and that's going to be probably the two hardest things I think will be. A lot of people say, well, tax exemption said it's not going to happen. You might catch a break with that. I mean, if we keep pushing and pushing and pushing, I think that could be something that can be pushed through. So I think with holding back funds and not spending money in businesses and having them to kind of speak for us about our issues, I think that can also be pushed through as well. Because when they realize that the money train is stopped, quote unquote. But what I think is going to be the hardest part of turning this whole thing around is just this mindset of is that we have to spend it when we get it. Spend it when we get it. When we start, because the rap culture itself, African American culture, whatever you want to call it, it is rap culture. It is hip hop. Um, our whole mindset is just kind of built around spend it when we get it, make it rain in the club, show them how much money you got, you a baller, blah blah blah, you got that, we getting turned up and all this other terminology and stuff like that. Because when you talk to billionaires, and I mean not talk to, but when you hear billionaires and millionaires of different societies, not even white, just different societies as a whole, they're not flashy. I mean, some of them might, they might have a nice car here and a painting, but they're, a lot of it's cultured. They'll have a nice painting on the wall, or, they'll have, but they'll have 4 or 5 businesses to where they can do that. They can buy that painting. They can buy that car. They can buy that. If you're still living in the hood and you're still, living in your mama's house in the basement, but you driving around in a Hummer or a BMW or something, with rims on it, and like we have to stop this madness about trying to look good, but there's hollowness inside. There's no filler. I mean, I'm sorry, it's all filler. Like, and that pisses me off because it's like, how do we expect to turn things around when the culture itself is just made to keep perpetuating this whole grand idiotic reality that we've somehow, because we have a car now, that we made it. Instant gratification. It's just instant gratification. That's an instant gratification. Oh, I just went to the mall and I got me a couple of sneakers, and I got my car. Meanwhile, the car is 3 payments behind. The rims you probably got off of some discount store or whatever. So with the system and everything like that, that doesn't go with the car. Probably blowing out your speakers. And your rent's behind, and your landlord just put an eviction notice on your damn door. But you clean. You riding clean though. Like that shit pisses me off. And I'm sorry, like you can't blame white people. Like this whole, not everybody can just blame white people all day. Like it's sickening. Some of the problems are your individual spending habits. Your individual, um, your outlook on how money works. If you think working 9 to 5, 40 hours a week is going to get you to economic prosperity, it's not. It's not. It didn't work for your parents. It didn't work for your grandparents. It didn't work for their grandparents. It didn't work for the grandparents before them. It's not going to work for you. Especially when they say, we just got one economic crisis and they're saying that the recession is still hovering its ugly head around. So don't think just because you're working at a job that you're fine. Because if you lose that job today, what would you do next week? That's a question you really need to ask yourself. If I lose my job right now, what would I do? What do I have any savings I could tap into? Maybe, maybe not. Can you ask somebody for the money? Maybe, maybe not. And I'll just speak for my family personally, and I don't want to, harp on them, but I know that if something were to happen to my family as it is, like my immediate family, my daughters and my wife, and I had to ask my family members for money, 9 times out of 10, depending on the size. I mean, if it's just a couple, $100, maybe I can get it. But if I needed a couple thousand, float me about 10, 30 grand, you know, for about the next 6 months. There's no way. But this is the difference between where we are and where other racial groups are on that economic scale. They may not have to go to their parents. You know why? Because they can say, well, you know what, I'll just have to cash in some of my bonds that I have, or I just may have to, sell some of this equity that I had, or one of my properties, or I may have to go and dig into my IRA. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are levels to poverty, and we're on the bottom of the bottom scale. And so that's what I want to, that's what I really want to emphasize. Um, so really kind of put up a game. My thing would be put up a 5, 10, and 15-year goal plan in mind. What do you want to accomplish in the next 5 years? What do you want to accomplish in the next 10? And what do you want to accomplish in the next 15? And then and then go in 6 month increments to that goal. Okay, the first 6 months is just okay, what is IRA? I gotta find out what the hell that is. Who is it? How do I know them? Okay, IRA is not a person, but you know what I'm saying? How do you find out what you have to do? You do your research. Okay? How do I start a business? How do I file a business name? Start your research. How do I get a loan? Start researching. Okay? And then implement it. Okay? Okay, I got to get the money for this. I got to put the money here. I got to get this going. I got to apply for this loan and start doing that. Oh, crowdfunding. Do crowdfunding. A lot of people don't, when we're living in, poverty like we are, and I say this because, I may live in a nice home, but it's not mine. It's rented. Okay, this is a rental. Me and my wife, we plan to own a house one day, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Even when we own a house, as per what I'm telling you, economically, we will still be worse off than our older parents, and still worse off than their parents and what have you. And we'll definitely be worse off on the economic scale compared to white, Latino, and Asian, and we'll still be pretty down below, even if we own a home. Um, so crowdfunding is a good way to market yourself and get money and learn um, marketing. And marketing is a big push. Um, there's a site called Kiva for business owners who have their own business already, who need loans. who, you get a no interest loan. I believe it's up to 10,000. Um, so I would definitely look that up if you're a business owner and you need, um, to get some cash. Um, look up business loans, loans for minorities. Um, any economic programs, any free programs that there might be out there teaching you about economics. Um, what else? What else? What else? What else? 'Cause I had a couple of key points that I just wanted to talk about. I've been talking about this thing for about 40 minutes. I might not even put this up. It's too long. I doubt anybody's gonna even watch all of this. But yeah, we have to really kind of put the money back into our community and stop letting other people spend our money if they don't have us in mind. Um, that's all I'm gonna say. Thank you for listening.